I'm thinking about buying some wrist cuffs, not the kinky kind, but for lifting, lifting wrist cuffs so that I can attach the cable onto my wrist. So then it'll take my grip and my forearm out of the movement so that that won't be interfering with how much tension I can really apply to my shoulder. All right, guys, today we've got a very comprehensive chest, shoulders, and tricep workout with kind of more of an emphasis on the chest, if I do say so myself, but we're really hitting everything in spades and really covering all of our bases. We're beginning with 3 sets of the Incline Smith machine bench press with 6 to 10 repetitions, as heavy as I can go. This is the main heavy hitter, followed by 3 sets of dips with 8 to 12 repetitions. Then we got the machine shoulder press for 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps. And after that, let's get into some horizontal cable flies for 3 sets of 10 to 15 reps, followed by cable overhead tricep extensions. We can just stay in the same place for 3 sets of 10 to 15 reps. And lastly, we're going to do a little bit of icing on the cake for the shoulders, hitting cable lateral raises of 3 sets to 10 to 15 repetitions. Let's get into it. All right, guys, so I'm starting with the Smith machine incline bench press. And I just love this movement because it's so stable. You can really just focus on working the muscles at hand. And this is all about targeting the clavicular head, aka the upper chest fibers. And it's all about that humeral angle. I'm releasing a video very soon all about how to target the upper versus lower chest, so stay tuned for that if you're interested in more on that. But the main takeaway in terms of this is I find that a lot of Smith machine bench presses kind of have an angle. It's not completely vertical up and down for some reason. I don't know why they do it that way, but as long as the angle is kind of pointing inward above you while you're pressing, then I think that that's going to more so mimic the natural biomechanics that you are likely deploying. Like when you're doing like a flat bench press and you're pressing up, usually there's a little bit of a slight bringing it backwards, almost like towards your forehead as you're bringing it up. I mean, for the most part, it's completely straight, but there's a little bit of that for most of the pros, like powerlifters and stuff. If you like see some of the videos online, you'll see like a little line tracking their bar path, and usually there's a little bit of a slight, So that's why I'm making sure that the bench is in accordance with how the incline is set up. If I had it the other way, then we'd be kind of messing with that humeral angle relative to the torso. Then it would be more of like a sternocostal head emphasized lift instead of the clavicular head like I'm trying to target. And I like to start with the upper chest for a reason. So let's get into the first set. I'm trying to at least get 6. I'm in a cutting phase right now, so my energy levels aren't super high, so let's just see what we can do. Oh, Jesus. Oh, the last set is always a freaking pain in the butt. So I ended up getting 8 reps on the first, 7 on the second, and 6 on the third. It's funny how it always ends up going down unless you take like huge amount of rest times. But since we have a full schedule today, I'm only taking like a couple minutes in between sets. I know like so many people, they really subscribe to the idea of using supersets, especially antagonistic supersets, because the data is in and it shows that there's real no loss in performance or muscle growth or strength gain. All you're doing is reducing the amount of total time that you're in the gym by like 40%. That being said, I usually just do straight sets for everything. Because honestly, like supersets, I don't think they work that well when you're doing like 2 compound lifts. So say I did this and then I got rid of this bench right here and I hinged back and did a barbell row like pretty much directly after doing this set. That would be so taxing on my recoverability throughout the week, in my opinion, that it may catch up to me eventually. Probably won't in like the first week or two, but overall, I think that you wouldn't be able to get as far without taking a deload as you would have if you just did straight sets for everything. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know if there's data on like how supersets are actually affecting fatigue over time. Maybe it doesn't affect it. Maybe it's just a cardiovascular dilemma, but I don't know. Also, because I'm filming and everything, I like doing straight sets. But I want to talk about one last thing before we move on, and that's just that I don't know about you guys, but my hands get so sweaty, especially on the Smith machine. I almost feel like I'm going to drop it. But of course, I'm not using a thumbless grip, so I'll be fine. But I almost feel like chalk should come into play. I'm in a commercial gym, so they probably don't allow chalk. But if I were in like, a local gym, maybe some of you guys are, chalk may be your best friend, even when you're not like, ripping a deadlift. The dips are such a great complement to any incline press because we're attacking the opposing side of the pectoralis major instead of targeting more of the the clavicular head. I got mixed up for a second. Of the pectoralis major, we're going to be targeting more of the abdominal or the lower chest fibers. And this is actually a misconception because a lot of people, myself, many years ago, I would think that the lower chest was just the pectoralis minor because that just kind of makes sense on paper. But if you actually look at the anatomy, the pectoralis minor is actually deep to the pectoralis major. So you actually can't see it from the offset. And therefore, the true pec major is just the lower fibers of the pectoralis major. So by including a incline press and then some sort of decline variation, I prefer the dips over like a decline bench because you can get more of a stretch under load. You're going to be really targeting the whole gambit because after all, even if we're like trying to target one head of the pec major over another, we're not actually isolating it fully. You can never really isolate a muscle fully. As long as you're working some of the functions, then you're going to be working the whole deal. You know what I mean? Whenever you're doing a bench press, you're working the clavicular head, the sternocostal head, and the abdominal head of the pectoralis major. It's just that you're kind of like emphasizing one head over another, depending on the humeral angle. Anyway, let's just get right into it. Oh, jeez. This is one of those exercises that is very easily loadable, but only if you know how. I think that people think of the dip as just like a bodyweight calisthenic movement, but it doesn't just have to be that. All you need is like a weight belt with a little chain, and then you can dangle some weights below your legs, or in between your legs rather. And from there, you just have to calculate your body weight plus that external resistance that you're adding. And then that's the total amount that you're going to be lifting per reps. Of course, if you're like gaining weight or losing weight, then you're going to want to keep that in mind. Just because you're doing 5 pounds on one day, and then let's say you gain like 5 pounds of body weight, and then you lose that 5 pounds of external weight, that doesn't mean that you got weaker. I think a lot of people kind of assume that. That means that you are the same strength, but you weigh heavier. It means that you are the same strength, but you're still pushing the same amount of weight, just without that 5 pound plate dangling between your legs. So I think that this is one where you should definitely be implementing progressive overload and working on getting stronger. On a good day, I can do about 10 of these with like perfect repetitions. I'm pretty exhausted from doing the other pressing movement, and of course I'm cutting, so my energy levels aren't quite there. But when I'm bulking, I plan to add in dips a lot more often and start to progress them like any other lift. Next up, we're moving on to a plate loaded shoulder press. And I really like one of these variations because you are so stable. You have a seat support as well as a back support. And then like the resistance profile is so locked into place. And most machines for shoulder pressing actually have a really good, strength curve while you're pressing. They kind of like converge out on the way down and then converge up on the way up to kind of mimic that natural line of press that you do just with body weight. Some, on the other hand, you may have to think twice about. So I encourage you guys to kind of use those principles I just laid out in order to find the best machine at your gym for you. However, what's funny? I feel like overhead presses are kind of going out of style. Everyone's just doing flies for their rear delts, but I encourage you, if your shoulders are a lagging body part for you, throwing in a shoulder press ain't gonna hurt. In fact, if you're really, really strong at like an overhead press of any kind, I guarantee that you're gonna have big shoulders. And many guys that have big shoulders are probably really strong at shoulder press. They're they're very correlated, not inversely correlated. They are correlated, parallelly correlated. So, if one goes up, the other one goes up. So keep that in mind. Anyway. I've been thinking about the concept of pretty much every compound lift, since it's involving two or more joints, it's going to have a much, less engaging body part doing a lot of the lifting. Like, for instance, everything has a secondary mover when it comes to compound lifts. For instance, this one, the primary mover is the anterior deltoid, and the secondary mover is the lateral deltoid and the triceps. And as far as the triceps are concerned, they're really engaging at this top portion in order to lock out. And by eliminating that portion, you're shifting the emphasis away from the triceps and you're getting more time under tension attributed to the deltoid musculature instead. And this could be applied to every single compound lift across the board. Now that I think about it, any pulling variation, when you're all the way back like this, you're getting a tremendous amount of elbow flexion, which is just engaging the biceps to a very large degree. Down here, the biceps aren't working really at all, just a tiny, tiny bit. And then you can really milk the lengthen position for the back. And this can be, used on like leg presses, leg extensions. Sorry, leg extensions is a isolation lift, but like squats and Romanian deadlifts and everything, you know what I mean? We're going to finish off the chest by doing the horizontal chest fly. I haven't done this one in a while. I usually do the high to low. That one's my favorite. Or I do the low to high for more of the upper chest. But today, since we started with an incline press where we targeted the upper chest, and then we next did the dips, which targets the lower chest fibers, I think that it's only natural to finish off with a horizontal fly, which will get more of the sternocostal, that middle fiber area, just so that, even though every movement is targeting everything, we may as well get the whole package, since I'm doing 3 chest exercises anyway. I'm really working on getting at least like 9 sets per time that I hit my chest for since I'm doing it 2 times a week frequency, that'll total out into like 18 sets, which I think is more than enough. I think that's great, especially while I'm cutting and I'm not really focusing on building up. So let's get into it. Geez, I'm starting to fade away a little bit. It always gets harder towards the latter half of the workout, but I just want to mention a little helpful form cue that I've been implementing. So in one of my videos, one of you guys commented that in order to really get more stability out of an exercise like this, you kind of want to have more of a staggered stance where one foot is in front of the other. It's more of an athletic pose. But by pointing your toes out from there, or at least just even having that staggered stance, you're going to have much more stability in your feet. And, it all arises from whatever base you're being supported, whatever foundation you got going on. So if your feet are just parallel, like next to each other, you don't have as good of a base of support, and thus you're not going to be as stable throughout the movement. Next up, we're getting into some isolatory work where we're just focusing on one joint. I kind of like to add some isolation lifts for the triceps for any secondary movers out there, because we're really just focusing on hammering the primary movers on all the compound lifts. Of course, they're getting like half a point in terms of volume. I like to use the fractional model. So when I'm doing say I'm doing 4 sets of incline Smith machine bench press, I would derive 2 sets when I'm counting up my total volume throughout the week attributed towards my triceps. But today, we're doing the bilateral standing cable overhead tricep extension. I know that's a lot of words, but you can also simplify it and call it the katana extension, because it's like you're taking out some katanas like that, like the samurais of old would do. Your right hand will grab the right one, left one hand will grab the left one, and then you're gonna wrap around so that the cables are crossed behind you. And then the main thing here is just keep your elbows locked in place. Let's get it. Wow, this has got to be one of my favorite tricep exercises of all time. And keep in mind, this is one where you really don't want to rush. This is one where you really want to be slow, deliberate, and controlled. And when you're, grabbing your katana out of the sheaths, you kind of want to pause for a second to really milk that lengthened position, like I talk about endlessly. And then just really, for this one, you want to be fully extending your elbow joint, your radial ulnar joint, in order to fully get that contracted or shortened position as well, so that you get both sides of the coin. Because after all, when we were doing the pressing movements, towards the end, I was just milking the chest gains. So triceps weren't, they were pretty much taking a failure, but I guess that this is really your opportunity to get the shortened position as well. All right, guys, last but not least, we're going to finish off with some lateral raises of the cable variety. I really love cables for a lateral raise because it deploys constant tension. I have a problem with dumbbells because dumbbells, when you're down here, your limbs are just stacked, and the only thing that's actually going to be working is going to be your forearms in order to hold on to the dumbbells. Up here, you're getting a lot of tension, but you're losing it down here. And I'm going to do behind the back, because when your arm is behind your back like this, you're going to be stretching out the side deltoid, and it's so hard to it's so difficult to stretch the deltoid musculature. It's very, very challenging. You have to really crank your arm in certain directions. But this one is going to be providing a weighted stretch upon it when you are fully back like this. And try and get back as far as you can by doing the lift. Let's do it. Whew. All right, all done with today's workout. That feels good. It was a pretty good one. I feel like on some of the later exercises, I probably could have gone closer to failure and gone more out of them. So that's going to be kind of my homework going forward, is let's really take every single set as hard as I can in that moment. I feel like I was a little bit short, fell a little bit short on that behalf. So that'll be something that I work on. And then additionally, I just want to talk about the form here. And on this one, you'll notice that I'm really going all the way up. I'm going like all the way up here. And that's just to really complete the range of motion of the lateral deltoid, because it's really just working to bring the arm up. So the further up you go, all the way up to about right here, that's when it's going to be fully contracted. Just by raising up your arm, you should be able to feel that. And then by going all the way back, that's when it's fully lengthened. So I'm really trying to get that full range. You know what I mean? And additionally, I've been thinking about this a lot recently. I've been thinking about buying some wrist cuffs. Not the kinky kind, but for lifting, you know, like lifting wrist cuffs, so that I can attach the cable onto my wrist. So then it will take my grip and my forearm out of the movement, so that that won't be interfering with how much tension I can really apply to my shoulders. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. This was day 2 of my new revamped lifting journey, and I hope you liked it. Have a good one. Bye.